Have you ever been told a secret so heavy it felt like a weight on your chest, one you knew could ruin everything if it slipped out? I was 19 when I found myself in that exact spot, standing in my best friend's kitchen, staring into the eyes of his mom, as she whispered words that changed everything. "This stays between you and me," she said, her voice low, her gaze locked on mine like she was searching for something I wasn't sure I had. My pulse was racing, my mind screaming, "What am I doing here?" This wasn't just a casual moment. This was the kind of secret that could tear apart friendships, families, lives. It wasn't supposed to happen, not to me, not with her. But it did, and once it started, there was no going back. I'm not proud of what happened next, but I'm going to tell you the whole story, every glance, every word, every moment I knew I was crossing a line I couldn't uncross. See, Ethan was my best friend since we were kids. We grew up together, shared everything, heartbreaks, fights, late-night talks about our dreams, the kind of stuff that bonds you for life. His house was my second home, a place where I could escape the quiet of my own. His mom, Laura, was always there, warm, kind, the kind of person who made you feel seen. She wasn't like other moms, always hovering or nagging. She was different, real, human, with a laugh that could light up a room and eyes that seemed to know more than she let on. But that summer, when I was home from college, something shifted. I started noticing things I shouldn't have: her laugh, the way she brushed her hair back when she was nervous, the way her eyes lingered on me just a second too long. I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination running wild. But then came that night, that one conversation, those words. "This stays between you and me." It was like a switch flipped, and suddenly, nothing was the same. What would you do if someone you trusted, someone you shouldn't feel anything for, looked at you like that? Would you walk away, shut it down, pretend it never happened? Or would you lean in, just to see how far it could go? I'm not here to justify what happened, but I need you to understand how it all started, how I ended up in a place I never expected, tangled in feelings I couldn't shake. Stick with me, because this story, it's not what you think. It's not some cheap drama or a simple mistake. It's messy, complicated, and it's haunted me ever since. Let me take you back to that summer, when I was 19, stuck in that awkward space between being a kid and figuring out who I was supposed to be. I was home from college, crashing at Ethan's place most days because my own house felt too quiet, too empty. My parents were always working, and the silence at home made me restless. Ethan's family was different, loud, chaotic, full of life. His mom, Laura, was the glue holding it all together. She was 42, but you wouldn't know it from the way she carried herself, confident, sharp, with this quiet strength that made you want to listen when she spoke. She wasn't like other moms, always fussing or hovering. She was real. She'd tease us about our messy hair or our terrible taste in music, but there was always this warmth in her eyes, like she saw us as people, not just kids. I'd always liked her, but it was the kind of liking you have for someone who's just part of your life, like a favorite teacher or a cool aunt. Nothing more. Ethan and I were inseparable back then. We'd spend hours in his basement, playing video games, talking about girls, our plans to move to the city, the kind of lives we wanted to live. We'd dream about getting out of our small town, making something of ourselves, being more than just two kids from nowhere. But that summer, I started noticing Laura in a way I hadn't before. It wasn't intentional, it just happened. Little things at first, like the way she'd lean against the counter while making coffee, her hair catching the light. Or the way she smiled when I helped her carry groceries, like she was genuinely grateful. She'd ask me about college, about my plans, and it wasn't just polite small talk. She listened, really listened, like what I said mattered. I'd catch myself watching her, then snap out of it, feeling like an idiot. She was Ethan's mom. Off limits. End of story. But it wasn't that simple. One night, Ethan was out with his girlfriend, and I was at their house, waiting for him to get back. I was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when Laura came in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was cleaning up after dinner, and I offered to help, mostly to be polite. We started talking, nothing deep, just small talk about my classes, her job at the library. But then she asked me something that caught me off guard. Do you ever feel like you're pretending to be someone you're not? Her voice was soft, like she was confessing something, and her eyes were fixed on mine, searching. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight, so I just nodded. She smiled, but it was a sad kind of smile, like she was carrying something heavy she couldn't put down. That's when I felt it, this pull, this connection I couldn't explain. It wasn't just her words. It was the way she looked at me, like she saw something in me no one else did. Over the next few weeks, those moments kept happening. A brush of her hand when she passed me a plate. A look that lasted a beat too long. A laugh that felt like it was just for me. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was reading too much into things. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. There was something unspoken between us, something dangerous, and it was growing. I started finding excuses to be at Ethan's house when I knew he wouldn't be there. I'd offer to fix something around the house, a leaky faucet, a wobbly shelf, anything to be near her. And she didn't stop me. She'd talk to me, really talk about her life, her dreams, the things she never told anyone. She told me about the places she wanted to see, the books she loved, the way she felt trapped sometimes, like her life wasn't her own. I felt special, like I was seeing a side of her no one else did, like I was the only one who understood. But it wasn't just excitement. There was guilt, too, gnawing at me every time I saw Ethan. He trusted me. He'd laugh and call me his brother, slap me on the back, share his stupid inside jokes. And here I was, letting these feelings grow for his mom, letting myself get pulled into something I knew was wrong. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment with Laura, trying to convince myself to stop. I'd tell myself I was being stupid, that I needed to get a grip, that this was going nowhere good. But every time I saw her, it was like my brain shut off. All I could think about was her voice, her eyes, the way she made me feel like I was more than just some dumb kid. It was like she saw the person I wanted to be, not the mess I actually was. That's when things started to spiral. One night, Ethan was out, and it was just me and Laura in the house. She was sitting on the couch, a glass of wine in her hand, looking at me like she was trying to decide something. The air felt heavy, charged, like a storm was coming. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she could hear it. Then she said it. "This stays between you and me." And just like that, everything changed. Those words weren't just a request, they were a line, a boundary, a warning. But they were also an invitation, and I didn't know if I was strong enough to say no. Those words hit me like a punch. "This stays between you and me." I was standing in the living room, frozen, my hands stuffed in my pockets to hide how much they were shaking. Laura was looking at me, her eyes steady but intense, like she was daring me to say something, to do something. The air felt thick, heavy with everything we weren't saying. I wanted to ask what she meant, but I already knew. This wasn't about fixing the sink or helping with dishes. This was about us, about whatever this thing was that had been building for weeks, maybe longer. It was in the way she looked at me, the way her voice softened when we were alone, the way my heart raced every time she was near. I knew what was happening, and I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't move. I managed to mumble, "Okay," my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't smile, didn't laugh it off like I hoped she would. Instead, she set her wine glass down and leaned forward, her elbows on her knees, her hands clasped together like she was trying to hold herself steady. "I mean it," she said, her voice calm but with an edge, like she was scared, too. "No one can know about this. Not Ethan. Not anyone." That's when it hit me, she wasn't just talking about a moment. She was talking about a choice, a decision that could change everything. And she was leaving it up to me to decide what happened next. I should have walked away right then. I should have grabbed my stuff, made some excuse, and left. I should have gone home, deleted her number, and pretended none of this ever happened. But I didn't. I sat down on the couch across from her, my mind racing, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. What was I doing? This was Ethan's mom. My best friend's mom. The woman who'd made me pancakes when I slept over, who'd driven us to soccer practice, who'd patched me up when I fell off my bike in middle school. But she wasn't that woman right now. She was Laura, someone who saw me, really saw me, in a way no one else ever had. And I couldn't look away. We didn't do anything that night. Not physically, at least. But we talked, really talked, for hours. She told me things I never expected, things that made my chest ache. She told me about how she'd married young, barely out of high school, because she thought it was what she was supposed to do. She talked about how she'd given up her dreams of traveling the world, of being a writer, to raise Ethan and his sister. She told me how she felt invisible sometimes, like she was just Ethan's mom. To everyone, her friends, her family, even herself. Her voice was steady, but there was this rawness to it, like she was letting me see a part of her she'd kept hidden for years. I listened, hanging on every word, feeling this mix of awe and guilt. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but I didn't. I just sat there, taking it all in, feeling like I was holding something fragile. I told her things, too, things I'd never told anyone, not even Ethan. I told her about how lost I felt at college, how I was studying business because my parents wanted me to, but I hated it. I told her about how I was scared I'd never figure out who I was supposed to be, how I felt like I was just drifting through life, pretending to have it together. She listened, really listened, her eyes never leaving mine. It was like she understood me in a way I didn't even understand myself. It was intoxicating, that feeling of being seen, of being known. But it was also terrifying, because every word we said pulled us deeper into something we couldn't take back. I knew it was wrong. I knew it could destroy everything, Ethan's trust, her family, my own sense of who I was. But the more we talked, the less it felt wrong. It felt inevitable. Like we were two people who'd found each other in the wrong place, at the wrong time, but couldn't let go. I wanted to stop, to pull back, but every time I tried, I'd think about her voice, her eyes, the way she made me feel like I was enough. And I'd be right back where I started, caught in this pull I couldn't escape. Over the next few weeks, it got worse, or better, depending on how you look at it. We'd find moments to be alone, stolen moments that felt like they belonged to another world. A quick conversation in the garage while Ethan was upstairs. A late-night text when I knew he was asleep. Nothing physical ever happened, but it didn't need to. The tension was there, electric, in every glance, every word. I'd catch her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking, and I'd do the same. It was like we were playing a game, seeing how close we could get to the edge without falling over. But every time, the edge got closer, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could hold back. The guilt was eating me alive. Every time I hung out with Ethan, I felt like a traitor. He'd talk about his mom like she was a saint, how she always knew what to say, how she was the one person he could always count on. And I'd nod along, pretending I didn't know the things she told me, pretending I didn't feel what I felt. I started pulling away from him, making excuses to avoid his house. I'd tell him I was busy with schoolwork, or I had to help my parents, but the truth was, I couldn't face him. Not when I was carrying this secret, this thing that felt like a betrayal even if we hadn't done anything. But pulling away from Ethan only made it worse, because Laura would notice. She'd text me, asking why I wasn't coming over, her words careful but laced with something that made my chest tighten. "I miss our talks," she'd write, and I'd stare at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button, knowing I should ignore it but unable to. I'd respond, and we'd start again, more texts, more moments, more reasons to be near each other. It was like an addiction, and I didn't know how to stop. One night, things came to a head. Ethan was out with friends, and Laura asked me to come over to talk. I knew what that meant. I knew I should have said no, should have stayed home, should have done anything but go. But I went anyway. When I got there, she was in the kitchen, her hair pulled back, her hands fidgeting with a dish towel. She looked nervous, vulnerable, like she was about to say something she couldn't take back. We stood there for a moment, the silence stretching out, heavy with everything we weren't saying. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't stop thinking about you," she said. My heart stopped. I wanted to say it back, to tell her I felt the same, that she was all I thought about, too. But the words wouldn't come. All I could think about was Ethan, his laugh, his trust, his face if he ever found out. It would break him. It would break everything. I don't know how long we stood there, silent, the weight of her words hanging between us. My mind was a mess, torn between what I wanted and what I knew was right. Finally I said, "We can't do this." My voice was shaking, and I hated how weak it sounded. But even as I said it, I didn't move. I didn't leave. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, feel the warmth of her. "I know," she said, her voice soft but steady. "But what if we did?" That question, it was like a match thrown into gasoline. Every rational thought in my head burned away, and all I could see was her. Her eyes, her lips, the way she was looking at me like I was the only thing that mattered. For a moment, I wanted to give in, to let go, to see what would happen if we just stopped fighting it. That moment in the kitchen was a line we didn't cross, but it changed everything. I left that night, my head spinning, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I told myself I'd stop, that I'd cut it off, go back to being just Ethan's friend. I told myself I'd delete her number, avoid her, do whatever it took to make this go away. But it wasn't that easy. Laura was in my head now, in every quiet moment, every sleepless night. I'd see her face when I closed my eyes, hear her voice when I was alone. It wasn't just attraction, it was deeper, messier, like she'd unlocked something in me I didn't even know was there. It was like she'd seen the parts of me I kept hidden, the parts one didn't even show Ethan, and now I couldn't unsee them either. For a while, we tried to pretend it didn't happen. I'd go over to Ethan's, act normal, laugh at his jokes, play video games like nothing had changed. But it was like walking on a tightrope. Laura was always there, in the background, her presence like a magnet pulling at me. We'd steal glances, quick and careful, but each one felt like a risk, like we were daring the universe to catch us. Ethan didn't notice, at least, I don't think he did. He was too caught up in his own life, his girlfriend, his plans for the future. He'd talk about moving to the city after college, starting a new life, and I'd nod along, pretending I was the same friend I'd always been. But I was drowning in guilt, torn between loyalty to my best friend and this pull toward his mom that I couldn't shake. Laura started finding ways to be alone with me. She'd asked me to help with something when Ethan wasn't home, fixing a shelf, moving boxes in the garage, small things that didn't really need doing. I knew it was an excuse, and so did she. Each time, we'd end up talking, sometimes for hours, about everything and nothing. She told me more about her marriage, how it had fallen apart years ago, how she and Ethan's dad were more like roommates now than husband and wife. She told me how she stayed for Ethan and his sister, how she'd put her own dreams on hold to give them a stable home. I could hear the pain in her voice, the weight of all those years, and it made me want to protect her, to make her feel seen. I told her about my fears, my dreams, the pressure I felt to be someone I wasn't. I told her how I felt like I was faking my way through college, how I was terrified of letting everyone down. It was like we were building a world just for us, a place where none of the rules applied, where we could be honest, where we could be ourselves. But the rules were still there, and they were closing in. One day, Ethan caught me staring at Laura a little too long. We were in the kitchen, and she was laughing at something I said, her hand brushing mine as she handed me a glass of water. It was nothing, but it felt like everything. I looked away, but not fast enough. Ethan's eyes narrowed, like he was trying to figure something out. He didn't say anything right then, but later, when we were alone, he asked me why I'd been acting weird, why I wasn't around as much. His voice was casual, but there was an edge to it, like he knew something was off. I lied, said I was just stressed about school, that I had a lot on my mind. He nodded, but I could tell he didn't fully buy it. That scared me. Ethan was my brother in every way that mattered. We'd been through everything together: fights, breakups, stupid teenage mistakes. The thought of him finding out, of losing him, made my stomach twist. I couldn't imagine looking him in the eye if he knew. Laura felt it too. One night, when we were alone again, she looked at me with this sadness in her eyes, like she could see the storm coming. "We're playing with fire," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "You know that, right?" I nodded, but I didn't say anything. I didn't trust myself to speak. She reached out, her hand brushing mine, and I felt that same electric jolt I always did when she touched me. But this time, there was something else: fear. Not just of getting caught, but of what we were becoming. Were we really going to do this? Were we going to let this destroy everything? Her family, my friendship with Ethan, the lives we'd built? I wanted to say no, to tell her we had to stop, but the words wouldn't come. All I could do was sit there, feeling the weight of it all, knowing we were on a path we couldn't come back from. I started pulling back after that. I stopped going to Ethan's as much, ignored Laura's texts, tried to put distance between us. I told myself it was the right thing to do, that I was protecting Ethan, protecting her, protecting myself. But it was like trying to quit something addictive. I'd see her name pop up on my phone, and my resolve would crumble. I'd tell myself I'd just reply once, just to be polite, but then we'd be texting again, planning to meet somewhere no one would see us: coffee shops, parks, quiet corners of the town where we could talk without being noticed. Each time, I told myself it was the last time, that I'd end it, that I'd walk away. But it never was. The tension kept building, the line between right and wrong blurring until I couldn't see it anymore. I was caught, trapped in this cycle of wanting her and hating myself for it. Then came the night that broke everything. Ethan was out of town for a weekend, some trip with his girlfriend's family. Laura texted me, asking me to come over. Just to talk, she said. I knew I shouldn't go. I knew it was a mistake, that every time I went near her, I was risking everything. But I went anyway. When I got there, she was different, quieter, more intense, like she'd made up her mind about something. She poured us both a drink, and we sat on the couch, the silence heavy between us. I could feel the air crackling, like something was about to happen, something we couldn't undo. "I'm tired of pretending," she said finally, her voice steady but soft. "I'm tired of hiding how I feel." My heart was racing, my mind screaming at me to leave, to get out before it was too late. But my body wouldn't move. She leaned in, her hand resting on my arm, and for a moment I thought it was going to happen, the thing we'd been dancing around for months, the thing we both wanted but knew we couldn't have. But then I saw Ethan's jacket on the chair across the room. It was just sitting there, slung over the back like it always was, a reminder of him, of everything we stood to lose. It was like a bucket of cold water dumped over my head. I pulled back, my voice shaking so bad I could barely get the words out. "I can't do this to him," I said. Laura's face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw her cry. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet tears sliding down her cheeks, like she was letting go of something she'd been holding on to for too long. "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry." Her voice broke, and it felt like my heart broke with it. I wanted to reach out, to hold her, to tell her it was okay. But I couldn't. I just sat there, staring at the floor, feeling like the world was crashing down around me. We didn't talk after that. I left, my hands shaking as I closed the door behind me. For weeks, I avoided her, avoided Ethan, avoided everything. I threw myself into school, stayed at my own house, tried to pretend none of it had ever happened. But the weight of it didn't go away. I kept replaying that night, wondering what would have happened if I hadn't stopped, if I'd let myself fall. I was angry, at her for starting this, at myself for letting it go so far, at the whole situation for being so damn complicated. But more than that, I was heartbroken. Not just for what could have been, but for what I'd already lost. The easy friendship with Ethan, the sense of right and wrong I used to take for granted, the version of myself I thought I was. It was all gone, replaced by this secret that felt like it was eating me from the inside out. Months later, I'm still not sure what to make of it all. Laura and I never crossed that final line, but we came close, too close. I haven't told Ethan, and I don't know if I ever will. He's still my best friend, but there's a distance between us now, a crack that wasn't there before. I don't know if he senses something or if it's just my guilt making me paranoid. I see Laura sometimes, when I'm at his house, and it's like nothing happened. She smiles, makes small talk, asks about school, but her eyes don't meet mine the way they used to. It's like we've both agreed to pretend, to bury it, to act like it was all a dream. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe some things are better left buried, locked away where they can't hurt anyone. But here's the thing I can't shake, part of me doesn't regret it. Part of me still feels her hand on mine, hears her voice in my head, wonders what could have been if the world were different, if she weren't Ethan's mom, if I weren't his best friend. And that's the hardest part, knowing I'll never know. Knowing I'll carry this secret, this almost something, for the rest of my life. It's not just about what happened, or what didn't happen. It's about the way it changed me, the way it made me see myself, see her, see the world. I'm not the same person I was before that summer, and I don't know if I ever will be. What would you do if you were me? Would you tell your best friend, risk everything, just to clear your conscience? Would you lay it all bare, let the truth come out, no matter how much it hurt? Or would you keep it locked away, let it eat at you, because sometimes the truth does more harm than good? I don't have the answers. I've gone over it 1,000 times in my head, and I still don't know what's right. Maybe you do. Maybe you've been in a situation like this, where you were caught between what you wanted and what you knew was wrong. Maybe you've had a secret that felt too big to carry, too dangerous to share. Drop a comment below, tell me what you think. Have you ever had a moment like this, a choice that changed everything? I'm not asking for judgment. I just want to know I'm not alone. And if you want more stories like this, ones that dig into the messy, complicated, heartbreaking parts of being human, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Trust me, these stories, they stay with you, just like this one stayed with me.